Good morning and welcome to Policing TV here in Windsor. I'm here with Karen Duckworth, who is a former Metropolitan Police Chief Inspector and current very active member and on the board of the International Police Association Section UK. Karen, thank you so much for joining Policing TV here today.
Thank you very much.
A fascinating place coming here to Windsor. We'll see a bit more of it over the coming minutes, including here in this area outside the castle and heading over to Eton as well. We're going to start with something about your career. Tell us first of all, what led you to join the police?
I've always wanted to be a police officer. I think I was one of those kids that used to sit glued to Juliet Bravo on a Saturday night, and I can't imagine ever having wanted to do anything different. So when the opportunity arose to come up to London, I wasn't old enough to join the Dorset Police at the time when I left school. So the opportunity to join the police cadets in London came up, and I was there like a shot and haven't looked back since.
So you had a passion for policing at a young age, joined the Metropolitan Police.
That's right.
Tell us something about that career. How did your career develop?
Oh, I look back on my career with enormous pride and a sense of positivity. When I first came out of training school, I went to what's now not even in the Met, a little place called Spelthorne, which is now in Surrey, and that was my my learning ground, if you like, and I made some friends there who are the best of friends now, and I look back on those days and I think what a great place to start. Nice and slow. You could learn things at a nice pace. And then I went onto the TSG, where it was a bit of a shock.
Territorial Support Group?
Territorial Support Group. So I was from Dorset, very green, very young, obviously female, onto a very male-dominated, quite testosterone-driven, action-packed kind of group, and that was a real culture shock. But great, really enjoyable. Started doing all my public order training, and I really enjoyed it. But it was certainly a change from Spelthorne. And then I just moved around, as people do in their career. Sort of just naturally, as you do. Well,
let's move on. Let's not move on too quickly from the TSG because you will have, I guess, volunteered to join the TSG. You won't have been told you're off to the TSG.
No, I think no, it's something I wanted to do. It was very much that kind of active, proactive. Everything was quite kind of now. It was reacting to things that were going on all around London, even though I was sort of on the western side of London. And it really appealed to me, that kind of sense of you don't really know what's going to happen every day. You go on out and you could end up anywhere. And it was great. It really was enjoyable. But it was a challenge at times, being the only girl and being young. And having come straight from school, that lack of worldly experience, I think, in that particular environment did prove to be a bit challenging at times. But when I left the TSG, I was probably, in a different space in terms of policing. I learnt a lot, certainly built my character a huge amount, and I look back on it now and I'm really glad I did it. So.
You mentioned there that you were, I think you said, the one female officer in that part of the TSG at the time. How did that feel?
Yeah, quite tricky. I mean, I think if you think about women in policing generally, the change that's happened is because of collective voice, isn't it? The more there are of you, the more there are in the room, that sense of kind of collective strength, and that's quite important. So if you're the only one sat in the room, that's quite difficult. And I went to an event last Thursday actually about it's called Women in the Shade, talking about women of colour in policing, and how now in 2024 women of colour in policing still are often the only ones in the room. And I was thinking, crikey, I know that feeling from 20, 30 years ago, and yet for white women in policing things have changed a lot. Still a long way to go, but it's a lot better, and yet for women of colour in policing it's still the same. And yeah, it's
So then,
quite challenging.
from the TSG on to other areas, you were about to tell us before I interrupted you.
No, I think, well, I just moved around a little bit, as you do. Hounslow, Wembley, through promotion and just general kind of having to move at the end of a tenure at the TSG. And then I went to Richmond, which I look back on now as just an enormous highlight of what was an already enjoyable career, because it led me to the opportunity to work within the sporting environment. So working with the RFU at Twickenham Stadium, planning
Rugby
events.
Football Union.
Sorry, the Rugby Football Union, yes. Working with Harlequins across the road, hence the scarf. And just being able to really kind of get involved in event planning, operational planning, being part of a command team, working with partners. At that particular time in Richmond, all the key stakeholders, everybody got on really well. And I think if you can get on well with partners and everybody knows you can pick up the phone, you've got a problem, whoever at the council, look, this is the problem, can you help? Yes, because they know you, and everybody's striving towards the same thing. So it was a really positive environment, and
We have skipped quite a bit there, because of course you're referring now to your time at Richmond, by which time you had been promoted several times, I believe.
Yeah, well, when I went to Richmond, I did go as an inspector, and that was largely because they didn't have any public order inspectors, any level 2 trained inspectors, and I was level 2. I kept up my public order training from when I was on the TSG. So I had that advantage, and so yes, when I went there, I was on the response team first of all, and which was great. And then the opportunity arose to move into operational planning, which obviously, being a rugby fan and a sports fan, had been a bit of an objective when the opportunity came. So I moved into that.
So the sports are important to you. You've got your Harlequins scarf on this. It's not too cold a day. It's not as cold a day as it has been, but it's still a little bit nippy in the air. So Harlequins, you were involved in the policing side and the stewarding side, still are involved in the stewarding side at rugby matches.
That's right.
And also with the sports connection, you were involved in the policing of the Olympics, 2012 Olympics. Tell us about that element.
Oh, who that wasn't around in London in 2012 wouldn't consider that just an amazing time? Whatever you were doing, I think it was just a real galvanising time, wasn't it, of positivity. And from a policing perspective, at Richmond we happened to have the Olympic cycling events, the outdoor cycle, so the road race and the sprints, either on Richmond in its entirety or passing through significantly. So there was an awful lot of planning, an awful lot of community engagement to be done, working with LOCOG, working with the council, TfL, other stakeholders. You know, it was an unforgettable time, really, I think. But I say that, I'm sure, you know, anybody involved in that period in whatever capacity would probably look back on it and think, yeah, that was a really memorable period.
Plenty of memories there from your time in the Met, in policing. We're going to move on from this location with this glorious former steam train behind us, labelled the Queen, very fitting in this station. We're going to move on from here, Karen, to another couple of locations here in the Windsor and Eton area, and we'll talk about some other aspects of your wider career, including your time with the International Police Association and some wider reflections, including on the hero badge that you have on your lapel there. Just as a teaser, tell us a little bit, though, before we leave this particular location, tell us a little bit about that badge that you have on your lapel.
So hero is, obviously, as you can see, the her with the symbol of the International Police Association, and this is part of a project that we've got underway this year to promote the IPA, particularly forward focusing to women in policing, and also highlight the women that are already in the International Police Association and what they've been doing, what their career path is, what their legacy is.
More of that in part 2 and in part 3.
Fabulous.